let's bring in our guests: Logan Hart of the Wizard Factory, Brandon Martin,
Right
Seed
on.
Truth Academy,
Awesome.
Wow.
Corey Angelot of Nita.1, Tap Link, Corey Health.
Hey guys.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you, Will. I feel like you were like, which one do I? What link do I?
Yeah.
I don't know. I asked the same question. Brandon, great job, dude.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciated your presentation as well. All of your guys' work is spectacular. It's just so amazing because I started out so early in this community, and to see people like you and Logan and Will and Chris and Leslie and everybody just popping up out of nowhere, I'm just like, this is fantastic.
Hey, Brandon, do you remember way back when I sent you an email? I was like, hey, man, I want to do a presentation at your conference.
Yeah, I do. I still have it.
Yeah,
It was
it's good to
great.
say again that, Brandon Martin, Nate Cab, Douglas Martin, they did the Seed 4, and that really was an inspirational moment for our group, the FUNL group, to say, hey, let's create some action and let's do a conference. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for the
you
inspiration,
putting
you
this
guys.
on.
Absolutely.
You guys are up late.
Yeah. Well, I'm EST time zone, so it's like 12 a.m. But no big deal. It is what it is.
Time's all a fake belief system
Exactly.
construct anyway, right?
I took a nap.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on, man.
Why do I feel tired?
Yeah, I want to say, Corey, your presentation was phenomenal. I mean, you're another one that's consistent and really top-notch caliber content, easy for people to digest. I mean, you got the logical progression down in that presentation, man. It was really, really phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really like the aesthetics too. It's beautiful.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I think you guys will like the next one for the Seed Conference. I think, if we want to lead people onto the next big event, that would be something we can do, because I had a presentation planned for that too. So I can't wait to share that one, because to me, it's like a second part. It's like you got to bring in all these different aspects, all these different speakers, all these different presentations. And when you have this whole tapestry of knowledge between all the different presentations, I mean, what do you have? I mean, right? That's incredible. So each presentation within itself is its own tapestry. But like I said, like with all of them combined, I mean, what you have is this huge conference, but also great knowledge. Because there's some, like, even people in the chat are mentioning like certain things like, oh, Mark doesn't talk about this or this or that. And it's
Right.
like, this is why we're here. Like, if you see something is wrong, do it. I went to a meeting just today, like a couple hours ago, with a bunch of people in real life, because that's what I do. I'm trying to network. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, we got to do this. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, hello, you're right here. Right? It's like, but yeah, I always ask these questions and get people thinking. And I'm glad that people are thinking and asking questions in the chat and maybe challenging things. That's great. Good, love to see it.
Yeah, and at some point, I think it would be great if, I mean, obviously it's impossible to completely control public perception, but if at some point we collectively, what we're doing here as individuals coming together and doing this, can somehow transcend this image of, oh, we're just like this Mark Passio cult, and we're all just kind of like parroting his stuff. Like, natural law is universal truth. It has always been there, and it's so much bigger than Mark, or no one has the monopoly on truth, and we are bringing this based on our own understandings as well. So I do hope that at some point we can kind of break that stigma and that sort
we have
of,
to do that.
Yeah, that's important.
I think we have to do that, because like we all have our own inspirations, and like we tend to be like, man, we want to look up to them and see them like maybe do something like them and emulate. But then over time we find out, wait, we can have our own way of delivering that. And I noticed that too. Like, you can just go to my own channel. The first year I was producing content, I was repeating a lot of like Mark Passio's talking points, because they are true. But then after that, I was like having my own way of saying things. And of course now I have naturosophy and other things. And I'm like, okay, wait, I don't have to agree with everything, and nor do I have to say things the same way. I'm able to have a way bigger worldview on things. And that's what we're always doing, right? Is we always want to improve.
I really think that this path of learning is not easy. It's not an easy one. The discussions we have to have with our own self on this path, like Leslie was talking about in her presentation, working on our trauma and all. This is not easy things. Like, it's hard to think about all these details, and when you get deep into this philosophy, sometimes it's like mind-boggling. It almost hurts the brain. It's not easy stuff. But I wanted to bounce off what you guys were saying about Passio, because I love talking about Passio's work and bringing him up. But I had to ask myself when I started speaking out and doing my presentations, like, what if Passio turns out to be not what you think he is or something, and you got to do this because you know it within your heart, and you're doing it despite whatever he is or is not. But it's not about the person, it's about what we learn, what people say. And he says that over and over himself too, and when you start speaking for yourself and making your own presentations, it forces you to think about these things through very thoroughly. And I would challenge someone who's just going to pop off with, an opinion about something to try making a presentation about it and see what happens. I challenge you to go through that experience and see if you don't learn something from it and wind up being able to speak better from your own heart in that process. And that's not a bad thing. If we have a bunch of people following Mark Passio talking about freedom, is that going to be bad?
Well, I mean, you can expect
for
it,
the
right?
Tyranny, maybe for the tyrants, that might be bad.
Just think about it, right? I follow a lot of different content creators. If any of you follow a content creator with more than like 100,000 followers anywhere, whether it's on their own websites or social media, I mean, people tend to like their stuff. And what you happen to have is, yes, you're always going to have some sort of cult following, or people, like a culture. That's where the word like sort of comes from, where people are engaged in ideas and similar ideas among each other. So I think it's just something to be expected. But seeing that is the magic of saying, wait, I'm still an individual. I don't have to think like these other people. And because I run into circles all the time, people who are flat earthers, all they want to talk about is flat earth. People who are Anna von Wright's common law assembly people, all they want to do is talk about paperwork. And people in politics, all they want to talk about is how do we get this new guy elected? And they're stuck in their lane, and they have a hard time with looking at other people's lanes. And so they develop everything around that. And so, yeah, absolutely, we have to be able to expand past that. But that first means recognizing.
And it's still kind of a pretty young movement, or I mean, I use that word very lightly, obviously, but it's like a sect within a sect of anarchism. It's the fundamental truth-based, objective morality brand of anarchism. And so much like the anarchist group in general has grown exponentially over the last year, or not year, I mean like the last few years, one can't exactly say, oh, you're an anarchist, you must be a Larkin Rose follower or something, because it's kind of gotten bigger than that. So I think it's like it starts with Mark and then a few people that like us, and then as each ring gets wider, as it ripples out from the, to where it becomes much bigger than any one person or even just us as well.
I want to say something about sharpening the sword. My work initially with Natural Freedom League was very influenced by Mark Passio. It's basically just me rewording his information in my own words, slightly differently. But the only difference was I took it out to the streets to go talk to people about it. And my buddy Mike Mattingly, the Funky Fathers, talked about you go out there and you have people challenge you and you sharpen your sword. You sharpen your ability to actually explain this stuff. And I think in this community, we have a bit of a echo chamber. And so I'm really glad I invited James to shake it up a bit, because when you get out there to talk to people, they're going to say, there is no objective morality. There is no objective reality. There is no this, there is no that. And you're going to have to become a philosopher, think about why there is objective morality or if there isn't. I mean, you have to really get into it. It's one thing to take on the position that this is how it is, and it's another thing to actually embrace it, embody it, understand it, live it,
internalize.
We need people to challenge those ideas. So that's what the Trivium's all about. So
I'd like to say something too.
Good words, John. I like that.
So I think we need to ask ourselves when we're listening to something that's outside of our comfort zone or outside of what we're expecting, or we think it's, if we think something should be said a certain way and it doesn't come out that way, then we're going to get a reaction or a triggering, and I felt a little bit triggered by some words, and it doesn't come out that way, then we're going to get getting feedback. So anyway, when I felt feedback, I asked myself, okay, first of all, I got distracted by feedback. So when you get triggered and you're listening, what did you do next? Did you shut down your listening? Did you start having an internal commentary about it, that you're listening to yourself talking about what you think the person's saying? Or did you pause and you open your mind to listen more deeply and listen to everything that's said from beginning to end, and then contemplate and reflect on that? And I'll say for me today, this has been 19, 20 hours of content listening, and there's no way I caught everything in everybody's presentation. I'm going to have to go back and re-listen. And especially if I had a reaction, I need to go back and re-listen, because I may have misinterpreted it. Or, so I think that there's also an exercise here for us to be able to handle ourselves and our own minds when we're listening to controversial ideas or things that challenge what we think is true. And this is about staying calm and staying in our balanced brain and being careful not to go into the fight or flight. I'm seeing a lot of flight energy out there, or fight energy going on. So that's kind of making me, back off of that process. But I'm going to go back and listen and think based on principles to what I hear.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Real quick, I want to acknowledge some of the other presenters. And Angela, sorry if I left you in the backstage. I had to scroll down on the screen, so my apologies. But we have Angela. Great presentation, Angela. Appreciate it. I love how you added the alchemical spice with the Hermetic principles in self-care. So well done.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be part of the whole conference as well. So I'm glad I got a chance to put that together. I thought it was interesting, as you were saying, like getting the opportunity to actually construct a presentation rather than just having like random thoughts in your head. When you actually have to organize it, is a very different thing, and yes, articulate it in the way that people need to be able to understand what you're saying. And then also, just to follow up on what Leslie was saying, it's also tempting for us, I think, to adopt ideas that fit our argument or our philosophy, whether they're true or not, just because it kind of fits our argument. And I guess we kind of have to resist that tendency to some extent as well, because if it's just in support of truth in general. So, I felt like some things in my presentation might be a little bit controversial for the natural body care market, because they use those marketing claims a lot, but they're just not necessarily true. So I want to resist that tendency to move towards things, whether they're just to support your argument regardless, is kind of a major fallacy.
Yeah, that's a really good example of discernment too, Angela, and the way you displayed that. So many times things are said, or we're quick to think, oh, the word said such and such, that means this, but like, does it really, and you gave us like this extra information and knowledge, which is like exactly what we're talking about with the Trivium, is looking at all the ingredients before we come to our conclusion, instead of, like Douglas said, they want to just jump to the next step and start drawing the conclusion before we do the logic stage,
Yeah.
So that was fantastic. I love seeing the parallels in everybody's work and presentations. That was wonderful. Derek made it. Thanks so much for coming, Derek. We loved your little clips. They were awesome. In the end today, it was me that shut us down on Facebook and not you, so it makes you feel better.
Damn, brother.
I don't know why they didn't shut down on Nate's yesterday. Somehow you got to buy.
What was it?
Your Ring of Fire song.
Copyright.
Copyright. I chopped it up enough to where it didn't go 17 seconds. I think that's the rule.
Oh, nice.
And plus, if you edit some stuff like overlapping sounds to it, it can kind of throw it off to where you're not going to get caught for that. So
wizardry.
Yeah.
Nice work.
But speaking of Doug, I came in late yesterday, and he didn't really want people to know about anything because he didn't want to throw anything off. But he hasn't been doing well, and I won't get into the details, but he had to go to the emergency last night, and it really threw me off, and I can't, and I just had to be there with him, and it was a tough time, but he really pulled through everything, and he's doing okay. So I just hope everybody can put him in their heart and prayers, that he continues to get better. It's been pretty rough, but his presentation really just lit the fire under me, and I could tell that a lot of people, he really touched them, and including me, and it's been a wild ride with him, and just I've learned so much from him, and just to see him struggling right now has just been so painful, and I wish he was here right now, but I know he's okay. At least I hope he's watching. I'm sure he is, knowing him. But I just, I love you, Doug. I really miss you, and I hope to see you soon. And just wanted to let you guys know.
Get well, Doug.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Nate.
absolutely.
Yeah, sending big love.
Yeah, please, everybody out there, send a lot of love to Douglas. Big hero in our community and friends.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with Douglas at Anarchadelphia, and just fantastic man. Has deep understanding and knowledge of esoteric studies and categories. So really, really awesome dude. All right. Well, we got a few questions in the chat. Actually, we got one in Telegram. Let me grab this one real quick. It was too long for YouTube. So let's see. Let me put it here.
One really cool thing, there was one question we missed yesterday, Will, that you totally addressed in your presentation, covered it completely, which was about, what do you think about authority over your own children? You covered that really well tonight. So we the only question we missed yesterday, I felt like we got, you covered it.
Yeah, that was a pivot. I had another presentation that I was going to do, and then I decided, after seeing the topics and the titles, that there wasn't that much conscious parenting, directly talking about conscious parenting. David Rodriguez did a fantastic presentation, and everyone's presentation has knowledge that one needs to take in that applies to parenting itself. So I did a little pivot. I was like, fuck it, we're doing it live. And and switch it up a little bit.
Versatile
Yeah,
warrior.
I loved it.
Yeah.
You pulled it off well, Will. Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The question that we got from Telegram, I'll read it. I also put it in the private chat for the presenters. They can read. It says, do you think that the fact that the corporate media seems to predominantly support the left and the right seems to have latched on to the truth movement indicates that there has been a change of strategy, wherein the right will now assume the role of the anti-establishment in order to trick people into continually supporting the false dialectic with no real change?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that happened a long time ago.
I would add the Libertarian Party to that.
I would recommend studying the Overton window to understand how politics really work when it comes to the dialectics of manipulation. They give you a little bit of less freedom, and then they take, more freedom in other areas. They give you more freedom, they take it away, left and right. It's all this control mechanism to keep you divided within, so that we are divided in the physical world.
It's also a controlled opposition tactic where they know their goal is tyranny, and to every inch that they push in that direction, there's going to be that natural and equal reaction, that counter force that's pushing back up against that. They want to own that too. They want to own both sides. The side they're pushing for, which I think is the left, is the engine that's pushing towards that totalitarianism. It's, you know, socialism, communism. And then the right is that they already anticipate that there's going to be more freedom-minded people that will have a issue with that, and then they will corral them into that false paradigm, that false dialectic of the you know, the good guys, but they're both controlled, they're both compromised.
Well, the
I
idea of the
noticed,
Overton window is to wrap in the radicals, right? So anybody that's beyond the pale, anybody's that is barbaric or anarchistic, they want to bring them back into the political paradigm. And that's what they're doing with that, to make them seem like they're anti-establishment, or that they support some form of, you know, natural liberty or anything like this, whether it's like getting in tune with nature. We see that a lot on the left side, you know, actually being health conscious and things like that. So they use these to make sure that people keep believing in the legitimacy of authority and the legitimacy of government.
They
Yeah,
think, well, they want something to latch onto, so they're like, well, this seems to be where all the freedom people are, right? They're pro-constitution, and that is true to a degree. There's more of a care for freedom on the right, but then once they have them corralled into that kind of collective, then they can keep them in the cul-de-sac with false solutions and not actually getting to the root of the problem.
Yeah, you know, a good example that I'm seeing a lot is RFK, right? RFK's on the scene. A lot of so-called freedom people are jumping on that bandwagon now. Like, okay, this is our guy. He's gonna make the change.
This time it's different.
They don't see other solutions, and that's part of the problem. But
it's like Peanuts, you know, where Lucy, she wants Charlie Brown to kick the football.
Yeah.
And she always talks him into doing it, and she's like, "This time, you're really gonna kick the football, you know." And she's gonna pull it away. That's the whole game, you know. It's like,
I remember right after Obama got elected was the first time I noticed it. It was the Tea Party, and then like the conservatives were talking about all these conspiracies about Obama. And that to me was when it was like, it first felt like, oh, okay, now the right is becoming the conspiracy. And then in the Trump election, they released all those documents, which was like Pizzagate, you know, which a lot of that stuff might have been psyops just to kind of troll the conspiracy people. So yeah, it's definitely tied into the right wing, the conspiracy world.
What do you think, though, John?
A bigger movement when it comes to, again, corralling all these different kind of disparaging you know, ideas into this collective where you have, like you said, John, conspiracy is starting to be linked with that now. You know, all the right is all the you know, vax questioners or whatever have you now, and people that are still in the political paradigm. You talk about freedom, you talk about conspiracies, they assume you're a right-wing nut, you know, a neoconservative and all this kind of stuff. That's still their box thinking, basically. But then you have like JP Sears, who's kind of conspiracy-ish but really conservative, and you know, like there's this whole kind of movement around that where it's all like, you know, Trump draining the swamp. You know, it's all very aligned now.
And then you have people who call themselves centrists who don't really know, you know, people like Elon Musk or maybe, you know, even Joe Rogan, who's like, I'm open to people on the left or right. And there's a lot of influencers because they don't want to trigger anybody, so they don't really take a position. And that's understandable. But they still never, ever, ever within the picture of reality do people consider there's a whole reality outside of politics and that there's solutions outside of politics. It's basically like we built this huge feedback loop for ourselves. Every time we say they, it's just us. And we are programming ourselves and our children and our fellow man into the same system that has been upheld for thousands of years. You can call this generational trauma, whatever you want to call it. But it's all feeding into the same illusion, which, by the way, democracy and republics are more dangerous than communism, than all these extreme forms of authoritarian control, because they're less obvious forms of control. Makes people think they're in charge. It makes people think, oh, I do have some freedom, but they're not totally free. And if they're not totally free, are they really free? and they're going to inevitably end up where they are going to be, which is democide and tyranny and the same governments rising and falling again, which is just history on repeat, without understanding the basic fundamental of government, which is what creates its statism, our mentality.
Yeah, well said.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah,
Like a
it's
broken
it's
record,
lack-
right?
Yeah.
It's a lack
I
of
think
philosophy.
the only thing I was going to throw in is I think this person who's asking this question is kind of noticing there does seem to be a subtle change in tactics, you know, in the last couple years here going on, and I think that is an interesting thing to notice, that since the pandemic, it does sort of seem like, from my point of view too, that whatever controlling elites are doing, there is sort of a change in tactics going on. You know, maybe it's the next level of the snake tightening its grip around the neck of humanity. I don't know, but it may be good and it may not be good. It may just be an opportunity, you know.
I do think like sometimes I'm kind of weary too, because like my friends, they want me to go for one way or the other. You know, they really want me to like, oh, you need to support this person, you know, you need to support this person, trying to like get me to buy into the left or the right. And I just, you know, buying into either or just feels so like there's always some type of hidden agenda going on, and you don't really know like what it could lead up to, you know, or like, you know, even with the RFK, you know, is there like a build up to like some type of civil war or some type of, you know, some type of agenda where they're wanting to get people left or polarized in order to, you know, really start something up. And so that's what kind of scares me too, is like, oh, I don't want to be a part of any of that. I don't want to be weaponized as someone to end up being in some type of like Civil War, January 6th thing where some people wanted to be really patriots and ended up, you know, being kind of goats and sacrificed, you know? Used. That happens all the time. It happens all the time. So it's kind of like you have to have this kind of step back awareness of like, what's the bigger picture, what's really going on. And I don't want to end up being weaponized as a person for some type of agenda that I'm not even like aware of, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey,
Exactly.
Will, you should tell the story about Brandon Caserta, or the guy that was on Tim Pool.
Oh yeah. So Brandon, anarchist, supposedly got he got hooked up with a group of like-minded individuals, and it turns out it was straight entrapment by the feds. I think there was like, and you can watch the interview on Tim Pool Culture War. It was like 15 people in the group, and I think like 12 of them were agents. It was only like 5 people that were not feds, were not agents, and they were pretty much this is the guy that they were trying to pin on kidnapping the governor of I think it was Missouri, Michigan. Got it. Yep. So
it was right before the election, so they were setting it up to like create sympathy for her because it was during the lockdowns, because she's a Democratic governor.
Correct. Yep.
And and the guy who got caught up, we knew of him because he was going to be in this group, which became FUNL, and just on our online group. And he was a natural law guy, but he went on Tim Pool and didn't talk about natural law.
You gotta be careful, you know. You really have to, you know, just take a step back and you know, evaluate things sometimes, because we're in some scary times here. You know, we're in some scary times. But
know your circles.
Know your circles.
Yeah.
Yeah, know your circles. Mm-hmm.
You know the people. You know, pay attention to their behaviors, and that's one of the things that we learn. I mean, the dark occultists of our world, they'll play everything very close to the chest, but you know, we got to do the best we can and just really measure people by their behavior and what they know. So it's dangerous, but you know, you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Were there any other questions?
Yep, we got some questions.
All right, cool. Can I just say something real quick on this last one of the whole, the polarization, left, right, playing on both sides of the hemispheres of the brain, and like we have the liberal side of things where it's like playing into the new age head cage, psyop, and then the conspiraporn on the right side with all this crap and all that stuff. So I see that wedge in like a pretty big difference in tendencies on both sides of the checkerboard of the entrapment of the duality. But on to the next one. Cheers, everyone, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Sweet.
One roll from France.
Derek's over there straight up allergic to shirts. I love it.
It's like 80 degrees. It's 6 o'clock in the morning,
You've been hanging out with Padini again or what, man?
Oh, man.
You need to come out here and see what's good over here.
Logan's always got his tank top, you know.
I at least throw this on just.
Sorry if I'm underdressed. I'm not trying to impress.
It's all good.
No,
The
it's all
birthday
good,
suit, man.
Right, he's all natural law, baby.
All natural law.
So we definitely got some questions coming in. Here's one from Imminent Passages. Do you think the idea of authority in parenting is
Perpetuating.
Thank you.
Is it perpetuating the slave mind? Absolutely, it is, because it's just like a disease that it's funny because I don't really buy the disease thing anymore. In some ways, in other ways I do, but like not in the way that they were trying to sell it in COVID for sure. But it is more true in terms of like shitty ideas that we pass along in our society from one person to another, family to another. It's like it's almost more realistic that way, of where we spread bad stuff around.
I would say it doesn't have to be authority.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, like, it doesn't have to be authority in parenting. I think if you were to look at a parent like a coach or a teacher, or what a real role of a doctor is to be as a teacher as well.
Steward.
They're more like guiding the individual for where they're at. I mean, children have immense creativity. And they have the ability to perceive the world, in my view, sometimes better than adults. If you really want to, get down to it, I really think kids are like, they're amazing. Like they have they're basically born free-minded, like they want to explore the world. And then as they get older, they get programmed into the systems that we say we have to follow this and follow that, and we push it on to them. So I think we have to be just a bit more conscious of what we're telling our children. Are we being authoritative, or are we being guiding and nurturing and supportive? Just like the way a coach would be, rather than a doctor who just prescribes a pill and says, go on this because you're on this illness, and because I say so because I'm an authority figure. It's like that's not a very nurturing way to help somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Very well said.
I would say it's beyond perpetuating. It's actually installing the slave mindset, because that's the first experience they have of this hierarchical model. And then that is it's the microcosm version of what then gets enacted through the masses, through on the macro level. So it's setting the precedent for how things work in this world, where I'm big, you're small, just sit down and shut up and do what I say because I'm the authority. And then that's literally what continues. So, and especially when you add in the element of violence, enforcing that so-called authority, because again, that is exactly what the state does. So you're giving them the taste of this is exactly how the world works, and they're carrying out, because that's the trauma that they probably were raised in from the household all the way up till they're an adult living in society and still under that exact same model. So it's that perpetual vertical and horizontal multilateral trauma system matrix that I was talking about in my presentation.
Well
I
said.
think it's in the when a parent is trying to make their child do something, there's this attitude that they have to keep increasing the effort to make them, right? To force the will on them, which then often leads to a more, harmful impact on that child, and that leads to more of a counter will that which is born in us when if somebody's coming at us, the counter will is to stand, generally, to even if a child is too afraid to do it out externally, internally they're probably doing that, and that's not teaching them. right? So what is really the outcome of that authority style? Is it really teaching the deep principles of life to a child, or is it just teaching them how to obey, to be in fear, and to not tell you the truth anymore because you get in trouble for it? You know, there's lots of ways it can go backwards.
Look at all those, like whenever we think of like the Zen master on top of the mountain, the wise man above it, you know, he asks a question, right, to his apprentice. He challenges his apprentice with a koan, a question that has no answer. He's trying to teach his apprentice, or her, you know, maybe the great shaman is a female. That'd be great. I'm sure there's plenty of those in history. And they're trying to challenge us with thinking, which is what I was talking about in my presentation, taking the initiative, where when you come at children right away with this authoritarian structure, get in line, choice A or choice B, fill in the right box, or this is going to happen type of stuff, it like really crushes that imaginative part of the self that takes the initiative to wonder about a bunch of options they might have never considered had someone not crushed that out of them at a very early age.
And I think that, you know, we want to teach our children about empathy. We want to help them learn about communication and healthy problem solving. So there's so many other approaches that a parent can take when they are dealing with a child who's behaving in a way that they don't want them to. And so, one, being able to manage your own emotions and your own agendas, to know your own programming so that you're not just automatically, you know, imposing it on your child, and then slowing things down enough to work with the relationship and that attachment bond with that child, which really is the most powerful agent of of influence on a child, is that bond and attachment and role modeling. What are you role modeling to that child? How are you walking your talk? Kids are going to see all the contradictions that you portray, you know.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do. And what this was striking me as very profound is that what they think they're doing is instilling discipline, instilling like a respect for authority, but there's no such thing. That cannot possibly be internalized. What they're doing is pushing trauma via this coercive enforcement, and that cannot be internalized. It has to go somewhere. So then it's going to come out through the subconscious mind in other indirect ways that are often very harmful, you know, because it's like the inverse or the perversion of the process of like taking in truth, for example. You know what I'm saying? Truth can be truly taken in and internalized, but then we output that via the trivium through our actions. That's the healthy way that we as human beings are designed to work. So when you're instilling this false truth via what is authority being projected on them, it works the same way, but in like this toxic, you know, feedback loop where that then still gets projected out, but it's not truly being processed via the trivium. It's going down deeper into the subconscious mind, and then it's coming out through the shadow.
Very well said.
Yep. Excellent, man. Nailed it. Yeah, you know,
Logan,
I look at the formative years as all
comments.
it's a process of connecting, right? This is where the relationship is being built. I mean, birth itself is straight trauma bonding, and it can be done in a healthy way. Birth is traumatic for the baby coming into, you know, the material plane, and instantly bonds with the mother. If we look at the system of birth now, I mean, it's completely inverted, and it fractures the psyche. It's negatively traumatic for the baby. So the formative years is building that connection. So you guys said some really good stuff.
Hey, I'd like to add in something real quick, because I actually struggle with this quite a bit. I do see a natural authority in nature of a parent over a child. And the reason I say that is because I have a child, I have children, and I've worked with children. And at some point, if I tell my child it's time to leave the park and he says no, and I say, well, you have 5 more minutes, and he still tells me no, but we have to go pick up my daughter from theater, then I have to pick up my son and carry him to the car. even if he's kicking and screaming. And now there's a way you can do that is not violating his rights. However, I do think that if ownership is possession, that if there's anything we own in this world, it is our children outside of our bodies. And that even stewardship over something implies a sense of you possess it for a certain amount of time, you have responsibility over it. So I struggle with that a little bit, and I just wanted to put that in there because
good point.
Just from my observations, I'm like, this seems like a natural authority in nature of a parent over a child for a certain amount of time. Now, where that lands, is debatable, and so just wanted to add.
Absolutely, right? I mean, their reason is being developed, their conscience, their body's being developed. They don't have the ability to really make decisions for themselves. They need help from other individuals.
Right.
We just want to encourage that process and allow it to happen rather than be an intrusive force that says, well, we have to decide what it is for them. It's rather like, what's the best way to guide them? And if we feel like our perception of what is the best way gets in the way of their perception, then it gets tricky. Yeah. And then it goes into what you're talking about. And I think that's, another personal thing that we have to deal with. But as long as we're not saying for other people and constantly claiming all over the world and writing down on petitions and having all this crazy stuff, I think we'll be pretty fine.
Yeah, there are developmentally appropriate ways of responding to your child. And so it really is about staying on your toes with your child and following their own growth, and situation by situation. And clearly with little kids and issues of safety, we'd be fools not to pick them up and take them out of a dangerous situation, or, you know what I mean?
That's why I like stewardship, because it literally means entrusted to one's care. I mean, you care for this child. So I hear what you're saying, John. I think it's a kind of a difference in just terms.
It's a semantic thing. Yeah,
it is
exactly.
semantics. Yeah, because I don't recognize possession over a child, right? What possession or ownership means possession, but actually we're not possession. The child is possessing its own body, and is also controlling and manipulating the use of that as well. So we're more of influencers and guiding. Now, I mean, yeah, you could pick your kid up. We got to go to the park, guide your kid in many forms or fashions. So I think that doesn't mean non-intervention.
It's a very interesting area where kind of like authority and responsibility meet, because if you're responsible for someone, then you do have a certain degree of authority because you're responsible. If you're responsible, you have to be able to make executive decisions about whatever that thing is. So just on the mere fact alone that they do depend on you for everything, if you got to leave to take care of something and they can't drive themselves home, it's like, look, I'm leaving, so you're coming with me because we're leaving, right? So it has to come down to that. I think people get a lot of weird mixed up ideas about this idea of hierarchy and authority because of the coercion that often comes with that. They have this very knee-jerk reaction, but true proper authority is a natural thing. It's a natural law, really, and it's just based in that which is under your care or your responsibility, or of course your property. Like, so if you own something, you have the authority over it, and you're the hierarchy. Like if someone comes and visits you in your home, like you're the authority on what is allowed to happen there. That doesn't mean you can just like start ordering them around, but you have the final say on what's going on in that space because you're responsible for it.
And to add to that, John, I don't know if you saw my presentation where I go over natural authority versus man-made authority. I think it's a good example of kind of what we're talking about here, because you literally used the term natural authority, Logan. So I think it's like, okay, well, if what is natural is what has always existed, what has always been there for the child? The mother, the parent. The parent is at least supposed to be always there with the child, right? So, and it's not to say the parent's supposed to be there throughout their entire adulthood, because then you recognize, wait, there's the authority of the parents, but then there's this higher authority known as nature, known as natural law, right? So it's like you have to be able to recognize these two authorities in their time and place, as I would call it in my philosophy, and I talk about in the presentation. So I think you can sort of apply it there in case you have any confusion.
I think, I'd like to make a little distinction too, because I jumped off pretty quick to say, absolutely authoritarianism is being perpetuated in children. But when I'm talking about authoritarianism, the way I'm using that term is the religion that we accept as a society. And so a lot of that's built into basically the subtlety of what makes authority evil is when we accept somebody automatically gets to be the person that makes a decision without us being able to have the discernment whether we want to trust that person or not, right?
And can back up that decision with force. That's the real, I think, the real key.
And we're doing that in all these ways as parents because we're following orders of other people that aren't trustworthy and bringing our kids into these situations, like the school situations where they're sort of forced into these awkward situations that, maybe they shouldn't be forced into, that are authoritarian structures, and that's doing the damage. How we handle them personally, I think that's a little bit differently. That's not the way I was thinking of authoritarianism, So I think there's a subtlety of how we use that word,
Mm-hmm.
I liked the commenter who's talked about structure and that's the job is creating a structure.
Kids need that.
Right, a consistency and a structure, and that can be done without the kind of violent, coercive type of authoritarian parenting.
Yeah, I kind of see youth as a feminine quality and maturity as a masculine quality. That's not to say the feminine is immature, but men need that little bit of childlike essence to kind of balance themselves out. Women need that masculine maturity and then that structure as well, the container for them to be their radiant selves within in a safe environment. It's that kind of dynamic, and I definitely see it's like the fatherly archetype, the elder father, and then the young kind of child that's innocent and sweet and playful, but they need that safe container, they need that structure, and they actually thrive on that, and that's what's allowing them to learn and grow, but in a safe capacity, in a safe environment that's protected.
Yeah,
absolutely. I want to does Brandon or Angela, do you guys want to chime in, or Sabrina or Nate?
I think you guys freaking nailed it.
Right.
We
definitely got more questions for sure.
Well, yeah, that's what I heard you talk about, Will, in your presentation, about hitting children, parents hitting children. And, it's a very interesting thing just because you have, and I was kind of talking about this yesterday about children raising children. And it's just, the thing is, if you haven't raised your consciousness to be able to understand the difference between right and wrong, then there's going to be at least those two types of things that go through people's minds, which is, one is, well, I'm bigger than you and I know you're not going to hit me back, that kind of mentality. And also the other mentality is, oh my God, my brain just went blank. But basically, it's just if you're hitting a child, it's not going to do anything good. It's never going to amount to anything good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the mentality. The second thing is the mentality of thinking that this is the only way that I can communicate to this child how to behave, because they don't understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. And so I think people just haven't, taken the time and, been taught. They've never been raised to understand how to bring a child up without spanking them or without whipping them or, doing some kind of, violence.
Yes. You said it, children raising children.
I will, mention just like, I feel like children are naturally like little sponges, and they're going to absorb, like what Corey was saying, their mother right away, or their father, they're just going to absorb whatever is in their environment, and they do naturally crave that structure, and they need a lot of modeling and to understand, their world around them. But I also think like sometimes with natural law, we tend to get afraid of like setting boundaries, setting rules, setting like structure, because it feels like authority, and we shouldn't be the authority. We can't do that. And I think that's also really dangerous, because kids need to be able to say, hey, don't touch that oven, or
Absolutely.
don't jump off that thing, you're gonna break your leg. And so there has to be that
Huge.
balance of like nurturing and caring, but then also being able to not be afraid, especially I feel in this realm, because we don't want to impose on others, but then we kind of swing the opposite way and just say, okay, we'll do whatever you want. And then it's like, wow, it's like crazy town.
Yeah, where do you discern? No, you're right. Boundaries are super important. I did a video about this because it was an article that we wrote for the Liberator 2, and I recommend anyway check it out because it talks about boundaries and its relationship to government and how basically government has unhealthy boundaries with its populace, and it's sort of this constant relationship. I even did another one on addiction and how it's viewed through the lens of addiction and how people are like, well, we need the government in our life, and they treat it like that. And it's like they go through this withdrawal. It's all the same mentalities you see being replicated on several different scales. So I do recommend if somebody wants to take that more relationship point of view on this matter, that they can look at that perspective, because it is very helpful for a lot of people. Like if you want to apply something to your life that maybe you can more relate to, you can look at a relationship. How is my relationship with government? Well, it's with people I barely know, deciding for me my life, which I own for myself. I mean, it's really simple to understand when you break it down, but then you get even further. It's like, yes, you get into the masculine and the feminine, and what is freedom, is this child here. So I think it is very core for sure.
Like you want to give kids and children as much freedom as you can. And like I had the experience of being a camp counselor, and when you have like 5 or 6 young children, that's a lot of energy, right? But if you create a structure for them, give them somewhere to go, give them somewhere to run, give them things to do, they do a lot better. And like if you constantly give them yes or no options, they're going to resist and fight you. But if you give them more options, then they're excited. And I just got a quick example, and then I'm going to pass it on. One time we had at the camp I worked at a problem where there was rabies going around, apparently. We'd heard that. And so there was like a raccoon right there by the cabin, and there's all these kids around, right? And I could have said, everybody go down there, get away. There's something bad, right? But that would have got all their attention, and they would have been curious about the raccoon, right? So instead, I was like, hey, guys, I heard there's frogs down by the creek. Anybody want to go to the creek? Right? Like, and distraction and creativity work so much better with kids than, force almost every time. And like a little kid, usually if you sing to them at night, it works a lot better than tell them, go to bed, right? Like if you take them for a walk, they fall asleep. That works better than, just standing there and waiting for them to go to sleep while they're crying. You know what I'm saying? Like, so creativity choices are always undervalued in our society because our society is authoritarian based,
Right.
and everything's answered with, well, if you don't do this, this is what happens, motherfucker.
And my last statement on this, and I think we should move on to another topic, but is recognizing the actual need of the child that they're expressing through their behavior, rather than just punishing a behavior or focusing on the most superficial aspect of their behavior. There's usually a need, something underlying.
And then when it comes to setting boundaries, is it for the mutual good? Are you doing it because they're just annoying you, or you're lazy and you don't want to deal with something, or is it actually good for them? And then also, how is it being expressed? There's a world of difference about, you can be saying the same thing, but how you're saying it, is there actual care behind it? Are you just saying, shut up, clean your room, just get out of my face? They can feel the difference big time. Whereas if you have that heart, that real care behind it, they can feel that as well. And they'll listen, I think, a lot more to that. They can feel it.
Well said. All great points. Let's I want to move to this, and then we got a couple other really good questions. At John, what does Steiner say about early development and use of electronic entertainment?
I have never heard anything about him talking about that. I think he was pretty much around before that was an issue.
He was.
He may have talked about other electronic advancements affecting the spirit realm, but not specifically with children using any type of device. So
I'll comment on that. Being a father, my daughter's 10. I'll say I've been polarized on that. In probably the first 6 years of my daughter's life, no TV, slim on electronics. I mean, I just had a phone. That was it. Even my musical equipment, I didn't even have it on. I wasn't even using it. This was before I was doing content and podcasts and stuff like that. So, but I also wanted to escape into the mountains, into the woods. So I was very much anti-technology. I've since then integrated a more balanced and holistic approach that technology is a tool. And I educate my daughter on how to properly use a computer, what YouTube is, how it could be used for educational purposes versus just escapism and indulging in, just ridiculous type of content. So in this age of technology, our children should have this literacy, right? Where they understand technology, they understand what it is and how they can use it for learning and growth.
Excellent.
So, and
Sure.
I'm totally, I'm aware of the EMFs and all this kind of stuff. Again, being on an iPad for 6 hours, 7 hours a day versus, sparse increments. It's totally different. And, and the EMF whole thing is we're living in this grid. There's really no way around it. All you can do is focus on yourself, keep your health in top-notch capacity, and do what you can within your own life.
If I could go back to when my kids were young, I would try to balance the time that we spent on TV with like doing self-defense, training or something, because the kids need that, but
Rock
at this age,
jumping
I try to
and-
get them excited about it. But what we did do was a lot of hiking. And like when I had them for a whole day on a Saturday, we were going out to the beach or we were going out for a hike,
Yeah. There's so much you can do. I mean, if you don't limit your horizon to say, okay, let's just give them a screen and then let that do the parenting for us, then of course your kid might end up in a way you don't expect or be influenced by other kids in their school system because you just throw them at the school system. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like to some extent it becomes obvious when you look at it through that lens. But I think when it comes to like my presentation, like with natural authority and man-made authority, I applied it to all things. I said in the presentation, I said, you can apply this to anything. So that also includes technology. I said, you can become dependent on a thing, not just man, but his creation. So if you are curious about like some of these things that you guys said, I'm not going to go into detail here because I did then you can, of course, go back to it and check it out, because any sort of dependence on that can be an issue for sure if it's not working with the natural functions that be.
I'd like to know, Angela, do you have an opinion on this, on the electronics or EMF? Have you found information that it's really bad for you, or is that false marketing as well? Or
I mean, I think was it Will or Chris who said, I mean, since it's everywhere, I think spending too much time worrying about it is probably worse for you. There are steps you can take to sort of mitigate. There are ways you can step away from your computer. It is a choice. And there's definitely different devices you can do to protect yourself from it. We know that we are electronic beings, so of course every frequency around us is going to affect us in some shape or form, but where are we going to escape? We haven't got the rocket to Mars yet, right? So we're here. We have no ability to turn it off just yet. So let's just focus on what we can do rather than feeling defenseless, I would say.
Yeah.
Good power. I love that.
Absolutely.
We got another question there, Will?
Yes, we do.
Fantastic.
Let's see. Let's do this one for the who's that from? I didn't get the name.
Ooh, I love this question. Chris, I was DMing you about this.
Yeah.
Do you agree with the school of thought organization that appeal to nature is a logical fallacy?
Nope.
Yes and no. It depends on if you're talking about actual natural law, which has layers to it, including applying to conscious beings, versus the law of the jungle. Those are two separate things that could both be attributed to so-called nature, but they're very different. That's my initial take.
I think I can answer this one as well.
So obviously, yes, you can't hold humans to the same standard of to animals that have a totally different mental capacity for actually being aware of what's happening, discerning and contemplating their own choices and the implications of those things, that would absolutely be a logical fallacy. But saying that natural law is somehow an appeal to nature, that's a whole different thing. I think that would be a fallacy as well.
Yeah.
Angela?
Yeah, I was going to say, in the context within which I used it, it does become a fallacy because people start taking shortcuts with that principle. So where they say natural is better, but then, petroleum is natural, talc is natural. So it's not actually true to make that kind of statement. There's nuance to it. So it does it can lead you down a path of error. That's the only point.
And that's why in
Good
my
point.
presentation, I made the distinction between what is natural to occur versus what is natural to exist and what is natural to use. So like petroleum or some of these things you mentioned may be natural to exist, but it doesn't mean it's natural to use. We know this because of the nature of the human body in relation to the nature of the world. So this is why I equate perfectly the word natural to the word good. So I'm basically embracing the appeal to nature 100%. I say this fallacy is not a fallacy. I have several videos about this on my channel. The whole reason why I create Natureosophy is to say it doesn't need to be. In fact, the appeal to denature, I would argue, is more dangerous than moral relativism, because it's man saying, well, because nature is imperfect, we must make it perfect with our creation. We must create things in order to basically not like work with nature, but to replace it, to imitate it and create illusions.
Right.
And this is the whole premises of my presentation. Like, if you accept the appeal to nature and you don't have an open mind to say, is it possible that this might not be a fallacy, then you're just going to disregard all my works, because my message is literally nature is the answer, my website and all that. So I've made a huge thing about this, but that's because you can't really escape nature's authority. So to some extent, you have to be able to say, yeah, nature is good.
It's like you have to know the properties of nature, the particular natural material that you're working with. You need to know the properties of it to know its correct use, right?
That's
and how it
cause and effect.
interacts with, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of true, like I was talking about, where do things come from? Like if you think about it, every man-made thing some way or another came from nature. So to have this idea in your head that you can create things that are somehow bigger or better than that what they came from is kind of silly. I mean, it's like they came from the original thing. The original thing's nature. Come on.
Yeah, I have a conjecture a lot with this as well. I think that we have a separatist idea where we think that the things that we create are actually unnatural or artificial. And I know that that's the colloquial definition of things, but since we consider ourselves one with nature and we're using the materials of nature to create things in nature, I think it's part of our evolutionary process to actually do the correct thing by aligning to nature and using these materials by understanding their properties and consciously using them for the evolution of the species and the betterment of other species that might be above us or below us. So I think that's one of our separatist, like dogmatic religious ideologies, that we separate ourselves from nature so much that when we're like, oh, yeah, we created a cell phone and stuff like this, it's not actually, something that's natural. And it's like, well, it depends. It depends on how you're defining these things,
So how would that apply to transhumanism or the merging, like genetic manipulation, right?
Depends on how it's being used, right?
Yeah,
Like, if
pacemakers
it's being used by
technically.
coercive authorities, then it's a horrible thing. But technically, we're transhumanists compared to our ancient past, right?
Yeah,
We're
just
so
'cause you have it
connected
in
to
your head.
technology. We technically are transhumanists. You wear glasses, that's transhumanistic. Someone with prosthetics to help
I got
them.
metal
I mean, Corey
hips.
laid it out very simply. Like,
Yeah.
I think Corey's presentation was something that I wrote about like 10 years ago when it comes to this kind of fallacy.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that that's considered transhumanist. I just think it's the evolution of our creative mind, our ingenuity, and our ability to align ourselves to nature. And because we emulate everything, right? That's what we
but
do.
we have to be careful, because if we permiss these things into saying, well, they are natural because they came up as our evolution, we say they're natural to occur. again, doesn't mean it's natural to exist. So we have to be able to realize, like, okay, we have glasses. Why do we have glasses? We wouldn't ask the question why if we did not see there was a nature before glasses, again, seeing what was always existent. So that was the eyes without the glasses. So what's causing people to have glasses? And that question would never be prompted if it wasn't for asking why or seeing there's a previous nature. So that makes us inquire upon a previous world. And again, I said in my presentation, there wouldn't be that distinction between the unnatural and natural if it wasn't for a world that was detached from nature or felt like they were being abandoned in the very first place.
And then we have responsibility around it.
That's the key, I think, that this conversation is going towards in terms of the action, the rhetoric that comes out of what we're saying, because these things are very true. But when we create something, obviously there's a natural inclination to use technology. How do we change anything, right? Technology is one of the ways we change things. So we use our hands, we create a tool, we use that tool to start whatever it is, gathering food, right? And then we realize, though, oh shoot, if we gather all these plants all in one season, we're not going to have any food next year because they're not going to be able to propagate because we killed every single one of them and we ate all the seeds. That was like not very smart of us, was it? Right? Like, so it was good technology to come up with that tool that you use to harvest the plants, but then we didn't use discernment and moral, like, balance, like the way nature does. Like, we just decided to take it all, which we can do. We have that freedom to do in this realm, but we need to start thinking about with our technology that there is a moral responsibility when we come up with a new technology. And like cars, the way we're running them right now is an irresponsible technology. We shouldn't be using them the way we're using them,
Yeah, constantly strive for symbiosis in nature versus parasitic. I mean, if we look at the systems that society and civilization right now, right? It's take. So that's what a parasite does. It'll take until the host is dead. So, I mean, in this case, I don't think that's not going to happen to the planet. I think the planet, she will shake us off like fleas at some point.
Technology is just a fancy way of saying tool. I think people tend to use this word because we have electronics, which, that's like super technological. It's tech, right? But, as with any tool, we are ultimately responsible for how we're using things. But I actually, personally, I think this whole appeal to nature thing is kind of a false dialectic, is what it comes down to, because it can go either way. I mean, I see this kind of thing online sometimes, and I always kind of roll my eyes when people are like, humans are the only, creatures that pay to live, or pay to live on this planet. And I'm like, well, humans are the only ones like making symphony orchestras too, but you don't see people complaining about that, right? Just because only humans are doing something doesn't mean that that's automatically bad and like a bastardization of nature or something.
Yeah.
Whoa. What is that?
And similarly, like, right, when it comes to the morals and again, like the gray areas, doesn't mean we throw out the whole baby with the bathwater type of thing.
Right. Conscious discernment. That's what it all has to come down to.
You guys are very good because you have an open mind and you're seeing all the different perspectives, which is the whole idea. Like when I said health is also another word for nature, it's like seeing all the different perspectives. Because that allows you to have knowledge, and then that knowledge allows you to ultimately see more of nature, and then all the contradictions that therein exist. Like Taoism, the symbol literally is the yin yang, and everything within the Tao Te Ching is just like polarities at war with each other constantly. Yet the book is about being in harmony with nature. Sounds awfully similar to kind of what we're battling with right now in this conversation. It's funny how that works, isn't it? The principle of polarity.
Yeah.
Remember Mark's slide with Netter, and Netter looks like that flag, and it's like a window. And nature does that. It gives us a window into ourself. And that's kind of like what I was talking about in my presentation with relationships, both with nature and with other people, are like a mirror. And that's the substrate on which we're able to see how natural law works itself out. And we're able to get feedback. And that allows us to feel with our feelings and our emotions where we're at in this natural law experience, when we're looking at it that way, when we're awake enough and aware enough to see that that's the reality we're in and that's what's going on. But that's so obscured in the modern world that, a lot of people are just not even up in the film room, like Brendan Martin said, they're just down in the theater watching the play.
And so just to conclude, Logan, on what you said, I actually think it's the only dialectic, but that could be a separate conversation. So I know that's like maybe a bigger claim.
Yeah, people
as well.
just like to have these oversimplified, it's just this or that. I don't know. It's like saving them from going through the hassle of actually getting into the weeds and unpacking everything and trying to have some exercise that discernment and figure things out and really just paint out the nuance to the what's typically there. Things are rarely that simple.
Sure.
But they want them to be.
Oh, I totally
like,
get
it's just this, nature good, man-made bad. There you go.
Right.
Let's move on to another question.
Yeah,
okay.
Now
Go
let's
ahead.
move on.
Okay. Here's one. Oh, oops, that's the wrong one. It was where was it? This one right here. Here we go. Healthy conscious. What was the most impactful moment of the conference to you?
I was pretty inspired seeing Mark and Etienne out there at Pork Fest and knowing that a lot of my autonomy friends were there too, watching that, and that was pretty special for me, the way that all came together. And
just for people to know that that was a total surprise. I mean, I knew about that just several minutes before he was going to go live, so that was pretty awesome. That was definitely a treat to have that. And they had the autonomy guys, like you said, Chris, were there, so they had an audience. It was cool taking questions from them. Anyone else?
I think for me, after the end of the first day yesterday, just seeing all the presentations and just like being overwhelmed with how much people care and just the passion that everyone has, it's just been so inspiring, and I feel like it's raised my vibrational level. I don't know. It's
your chakra's glowing purple.
Yeah. I feel so inspired by this conference. So yeah, amazed at everyone's presentations. Really fantastic. Yeah. And the care everyone has, you can feel it, you can feel the passion and the hope and the drive and the determination. It's contagious. And I think that, everyone's doing their own work and spreading the word, and it's getting out there. And that's really moving. It's really moving and can have a huge effect on society. Yeah.
Yeah, just expressing ourselves, I think, is enough, because so many individuals may just want to be distracted or consumed into some sort of medium where they feel like maybe they can't express themselves, or whatever they want to express has already been expressed. And so they sort of suppress it or ignore it. And I think it's like it's ideal to say, not just for people to create content, but to express themselves, not just to share the truth, but express themselves and find ways of sharing the truth in their own unique expression. Both equally the same.
I really loved seeing everybody's creativity and the way that people have just stepped up, really care so much to, I don't know, just keep offering at a ever increased level of professionality, and it's been lovely to see.
Another special moment was Leslie was here when her presentation was playing, and her energy was just like, oh man, she was like a butterfly. I thought you were about to fly out of the room. It was just so intense. But I felt the same way when mine came on. It's like, oh my gosh, everybody's watching it. It's just so intense.
Yeah.
I would say for me, impactful is just like the community, honestly, like the chat, like everyone's been pretty cool. And it just seems like a really positive vibe that everybody has. And then also just shout out to Will, just the work that he puts into it. I mean, he's, everyone knows about Will, but I mean, he's just a really hard worker,
we
dedicated,
know.
and
we know very well.
Shout out to Will. Shout out to Will.
Well, thanks, man. That's very nice of you. Yeah, have a good team coming together and creating some action. This is great. Hopefully it was inspiring for other people, the viewers that are thinking about taking action and haven't fully activated yet, which we had another question that had to involve that. There
Oh,
it is.
the One True Media. Yeah.
Yeah. Any tips for someone who is taking How to Become the True Media? I'm doing it this year. Great investment. Great investment.
Just show up, be consistent, show up with an open mind and ready to learn. And that's really it. Like Mark does a great job taking you through everything. You're going to be just fine. Just, show up and be consistent.
Yeah, kind of do what he says. I would say be at your computer at a bigger screen and be really willing to follow him in his detail and then practice in between. And he'll emphasize that it's like, if you don't go back and do the things, it's really easy not to stick.
It's true. Yeah. He covers so much ground. If you don't get some hands-on experience, it's not going to stick as well, for sure.
Yeah.
And there'll be people in the beginning saying, "Oh, this is too simple and too elementary," and then later on they'll be like, "This is too hard. I can't keep up," because he really covers the whole realm. You just have to be very patient, and he's super patient, amazingly patient, and showing you what persistence is in its truest and rawest form.
It's actually really cool to see Mark in that setting. Because he's very different.
It's like, okay, we're having trouble with this. I'm just going to troubleshoot this in real time for you. This is what it takes. You have to understand.
That's really good. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of knowledge that Mark's going to dish out. I mean, he's a phenomenal teacher. So take it in, practice, and also take advantage of the interaction, right? The hour ahead, you can ask questions. The hour after, you can ask questions. And also it opens up for the whole course to interact with each other, which last year, not that many people took advantage of that. Like I had to get on and turn my camera on and try to, hey, someone hop on and talk to me or turn your camera on. Eventually, slowly, people did that, right? But that's a golden opportunity for anyone that doesn't like to be on camera, that's shy, that's not used to it. This is the space to do that. Like we're there to create content, do the one great work. Fantastic space to get activated in there.
It's a great point, because at least everyone is there for the same reason. They're not there to judge you or they're just trying to learn as well. So.
Yeah, I remember that first class, 30 people in there every night. It was just everybody was so jazzed to be there. That was great.
Yeah, I would like to say, and I know I didn't take the course and all that, but I know it's like probably great information and everything. But like, because I just got there through passion. I just want everybody, no matter where they are at, to always like reflect, journal, find out what they're passionate about, and sort of integrate it in. Like if you care about medicine, you care about art or poetry, like do it, even if nobody's watching. Like just start getting your voice out there. I know the first year I was speaking in front of the camera, I was like, what is this? I'm speaking in front of the camera, this is weird. And then after a while it just became natural, and over a while of just practicing, and then even what John said, talking to people on the street, yeah, that's huge. I didn't realize how much that can make a difference. But just talking to people in general about these ideas and bring it to your family or friends and just getting practice with that, all of it helps, and helps you find direction. So that is something that's more off the course that I encourage people do, just because I don't know if that's mentioned within. And also I have a video about like all the resources I use, because I'm very simplistic and I'm cheap, which is like a small little mic. But I do think it works pretty good, because like I try to choose like European companies and like all sorts of like really like good quality stuff. So if you need help and you don't want to spend a lot of money, I'm always willing to help. If you want to email me or get involved in the project's always open for that.
It's funny, your mic is so small, yet you sound the best out of anybody.
It's a good quality.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's a good point that you said, Corey. I actually say that a lot when I talk about doing the one great work. The first is the internal work, right? So you have to discover yourself. It's a process of self-discovery, and what are your passions? Get to know your attributes, and then incorporate natural law, true freedom, all this stuff into your passion. I mean, Angela's talking about skincare and self-care, and she's putting natural law principles in there, and the correspondences. And that's the great thing about it. The natural law applies to everything, really. When you get into the principles and stuff, you can touch on really any subject, obviously focusing on the belief in human authority is a part of the message. But you can do anything.
Right.
Dance,
art. Something I could jump off that, Will, is it's, I think, like I talked about in my presentation, where your life's not written, fatalism stuff going forward. But if you look at your history, the trials you've been through, a lot of times that tells a little bit of a story. And that's a lot of times where people's passion derives from. And so if you're feeling a little foggy about it, think back about the major events in your life, the traumas that you went through. And usually those are where we find inspiration. Like, someone's family member got poisoned by some makeup or something, and then they're like, I want to come out with the most natural makeup there is because, it hurt my brother or my sister or whatever. Like, that's a lot of times where you find your passion from your pain.
Yeah, very true.
To like some extent, it's got to come like naturally. So that's why I want people like journaling and thinking about it. There was another thing I was going to mention. Oh yeah, like a lot of people who are like celebrities or like influencers online. I just want to say, by the way, most of them did not intend to get famous or become like big. So the reason why is because they were just doing what they liked. Some of them were just gamers who were gaming all the time, and people just liked watching them and their personality. They weren't really doing anything except being who they were. Now, some people, they put in loads of effort and they try really hard. But I do, just within my own personal observation, I see generally some of the greatest influences out there are actually the ones that don't expect it and just achieve it naturally through expressing themselves online just in general.
Yeah, think of like a cult classic film. They're typically just these low budget. It's just like a bunch of passionate filmmakers that put something together and it blows up. And then what do you see? They go and try and make a sequel, and it sucks because they're all self-aware and they're like, "Oh, we have to top that, and we got to tie in all these little references and stuff."
Totally. Yeah, you hit it on the nail.
Yeah, as far as a tip, I would recommend asking Mark if you are still permitted to record the lessons and then share them with the other classmates. And I think that's really good for taking notes and having that material for future reference. I did that, and with the help of a bunch of other people in the class to be able to gather all the episodes, I think that's really important to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it says it's okay, at least the last time, it was for your own use, but not to share.
Yeah, you're not allowed to share.
We still want people to come to his class.
Yeah,
so we're not trying to give it all
so
away.
it's for I think he gives so much information that it's impossible to absorb and remember it all. And I would know I would need that kind of recording to go back. And also, like, we're all at different levels, and he's going to surpass most people's levels at a certain point. Or there might be something he's teaching that you don't need, like how to build a website or something. I want to do that later, but I certainly wasn't ready for it now. So, but if I had a recording, I could go to it.
Right.
Absolutely. Let me see if we can get maybe one more question in real quick, and probably start to wind it down. You guys are phenomenal. Day 2, another success. We've already set a record time. Now we're at 13 hours and 23 minutes. Yesterday was 12 hours and 48 minutes.
Wow.
And I definitely discovered that certain platforms actually have a limit on their recording.
Yep.
So
I had that issue with Seed 4.
Really? I didn't know that.
Well, I remember James on his had to stop it and restart it, and I don't know if that was a different reason. But,
that's interesting because I'm live streaming the radio, the Truth Music Radio, and that's been on Twitch and Kick, but I guess not YouTube. Maybe that's why I got kicked off of YouTube so many times. But I feel like it was the copyright issue because it was a lot of Derek Bartolicelli's music. So I don't know.
I've definitely seen.
Oh yeah, we lost Derek. I know.
Yeah, we did
someone
lose him.
popped out.
I've
I know,
definitely
but
seen
his
perpetual streams on YouTube that are like just ongoing.
Right.
So
I don't know if they start them over at a certain point or what, but Derek, going back to the other question you guys asked, what's your favorite part of Freedom Under Natural Law? I loved watching Derek Bartolicelli's little animations with his music. I thought that was awesome. I just love it.
I wanted to share my anecdote on that as well. I mean, I loved the whole thing. It was all impactful. I did nothing this weekend but just sit here, cook food, and listen. It was great. But if I had to just pick one moment, for me it was probably the end of Doug's presentation, because
That's what I was going to say.
not only did he deliver an incredible work, I had a little bit of back knowledge. I didn't know he went to the ER, but I knew he'd been struggling with health issues ongoing for a while. And so just that knowledge alone, I found very inspiring, that I could tell he looked tired, but he was there and he was powering through. And I was just in awe of like his knowledge and his grit to make that thing happen. And then when he got really emotional at the end, I was like, damn, dog, like right in the feels,
Yeah, he really,
Yeah.
really pushed it, and phenomenal effort. And I was very inspired as well by Douglas this weekend, and leading up to it, talking to him, just my heart really goes out to that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you to all the presenters. You guys came through with just top-notch, high-caliber stuff, and it was fire. And then, of course, all the viewers. We had consistent viewership both days. So, you guys make this conference. This is why we do it, to inspire folks and love all the interaction. And the replays will be on freedomundernaturallaw.com. You can go there and get the links. And also, please check out the presenters. Go to their websites.
Buy a T-shirt. I think that's what he's trying to say over there.
Yeah.
They're cool. They're cool looking. That's a good. I love the.
They are.
Oh yeah, one last thing. Tomorrow, Monday, on freedom.radio, me and Crypt Rick wanted to be here, but another hero, he's battling health issues all the time, constantly, and he can only hang out so long before the cold gets to his bones and all. So he would have loved to be here the whole time, but tomorrow he's having me on his show, Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking, and that's freedom.radio, Studio A, 3:00 p.m. Pacific, and we're gonna talk about this conference.
Awesome.
Nice.
Did Nate want to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to say that one of the things that I really loved about this whole conference, just seeing the progression, from all the conferences back to, I think it was Free Your Mind 2 or 3, because I didn't go to the first one, but just seeing the progression of seeing natural law becoming the central undertone, and it really was like that in this conference. I think that's a huge accomplishment, huge success that I've seen personally. And, just the fact that it's called the Trivium, and while that's happening, is just amazing to me. And I'm so thankful to, not hear too much of the conspiracies and too much of the materialism and too much of the political solutions and all that stuff. I'm really hearing the heart of the matter. And I think we're all really starting to get on that central frequency, hitting the mark, So it's cool. It's really awesome.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Yeah, well said. I think it would be a good time to start wrapping up, but I would love to go around to each of you guys and gals and plug what you got to plug, put out your websites, and any closing statements.
Plugger's got a plug.
Oh God! I know where Logan just went with that. All right, cut that out.
I don't know. Some jokes just write themselves.
It's gonna go down the drain real quick.
That's so funny. We can go with Angela when you're if you're ready, and we'll just kind of go around the square table.
Rectangle.
Well, if you're interested in learning more or developing beauty products or any, learning more about skincare, then you can get in touch with me at angela.info@saltlabs.com. Check out my website, and we can definitely talk some more and see how we can move things forward within that space. It was an amazing conference. I'm really glad I was able to take part in it. It was such a diverse range of topics. Learned a lot myself as well. Just to comment on the impactful moment, definitely Douglas Martin for me as well. But yeah, I think it's really amazing to see a bunch of sort of people just coming from very different angles, meeting together under this one umbrella and sharing these ideas. Even whether we all agree or not is another thing, but I think that's also part of the beauty of it too.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah. Mr. Corey, which, hey,
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if I was next.
Yeah,
just,
I
just
was
happen to
wondering
have your
what
books right
for
here.
that.
The
Oh,
author.
thanks.
This guy's putting out a book like what every couple months or something.
Well, I mean, I guess since you mentioned that, I do have a new book that. Well, I mean, since you mentioned it.
Oh, that old thing.
Shameless plugs. Shameless plugs.
I mean,
Totally.
so it's
Get
on
it,
health,
get it.
right? I had a health book since like 2018. Like, long story short, I'll make a whole trailer for it when everything comes out. I'm going to make 2 different types because one is just like, it's way too big, basically, which is why I had it abandoned from 2018. And then COVID hit and I shifted my priorities to all freedom, because that is like the root cause anyways. But I wanted to bring this back because health is still a very important topic. And if you look at a lot of my channel, it's like founded on nutrition and health. So I still want to like bring that back. And there's a lot of unique perspectives that haven't really been shared anywhere regarding creativity and figurative expressions in models, new healthcare models that have never been seen. So I'm going to be introducing all that. And just a little spoiler, but you just want me to plug my link so people can go over to theliberator.us, and that's like a main place where everybody can get involved and create action and all that jazz. Of course, we also hosted the End of Slavery Summit back in last year, 2022. And if, in case anybody's curious, like if a new summit will happen this year or any other event, which by the way, I'm so glad like some of the people I invite to that summit like are on here, and like it's super cool because I think it's bringing more people together, which is my main goal, especially with the Liberator 2. I have another idea, which is totally different from the summit, from the conferences, and I'm going to be sharing that with you guys within the next month or so. And so I want all of you guys to be involved if you would like. It's actually even easier to get involved than it was before, because before I could have just interviewed you for an hour on any topic. This is actually even easier. So I'm trying to find easier ways and more effective ways, and I think I found the best idea. So I'm going to be introducing that. Stay tuned. So theliberator.us, theliberator.us.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you, brother.
And there he goes.
Bye.
That was quick.
He's out.
Wow, he's
Until
like,
next
"Damn."
time.
Bye-bye.
Oh, you're not even a bye.
On
the
to my next
plug-in.
conference.
I'm out.
He's out.
Wow.
It's like that Skeletor meme.
You just
He's
dropped
like,
the mic
"Until
on that
next
one."
Yeah,
Yeah. Damn.
that's good.
He said he didn't mean to leave. That's
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's cool. It was a
perfect, though.
dramatic exit. So
Gave us a laugh.
I'm so sorry. I hit the button by accident.
It's the return of Corey.
Oh, man.
He's returned.
So sorry.
Now he gets to go again.
it's the encore.
Now he gets another turn.
No, I mean,
Odd on the square.
But wait,
Square
there's
So sorry.
more.
so sorry.
Whoa,
No, we're
whoa,
good.
whoa,
I'm
whoa,
good.
whoa.
I'm done. I'm just chilling.
Oh man.
That's great.
Now it's Nate's turn, I think.
Yeah, if you guys are interested, anybody who under or knows the Cubbyhole, it is a or if you don't know the Cubbyhole, it is a podcast that I put together with the help of Brandon and Douglas Martin, and we do a tapestry of really deep knowledge dealing with consciousness, natural law, mind control, Freemasonry, all the deep ancient Egyptian sciences, and so much more information. It's extremely dense, and we're just going to continue. Me and Brandon are really going to tackle a lot of great content coming up. But also you can check out my Outcasting show. I have 25 episodes. It's a video show. So the Cubbyhole is a podcast, audio only, and then the Outcasting show is video. So basically it's just a refinement show. It's only 20 minutes long, or around 20 minutes long. And I do introduce a lot of different topics too, but both podcasts are very informative. I'm really putting a lot of time and energy into those shows. It's a lot of work, and so you can find all that information at cubbyhole.com, and you can find Brandon and Douglas's work there too. So
Excellent.
Word.
Beautiful. All right. John Rowland.
Yeah, I really enjoyed everybody's presentation. I appreciate everybody for participating and making it the best one yet. It was awesome. Appreciate and love to all my collaborators. Good job, you guys. And yeah, naturalfreedomleague.com. Also, masksareunhealthy.com, kind of like a little offshoot of Natural Freedom League, some future activism. Let people know that masks don't work and they're not healthy for you. You should breathe. And also funkyfathers.com. Check out Mike Mattingly. He's doing good shit. His music is just awesome. And he's just a battler. He's always out on the road driving his Prius across the country. So yeah, love you guys. Good job, everybody. Thank you.
Awesome.
Which a
Thanks,
lot of
John.
people were asking. Thanks, John. Appreciate you, brother. A lot of people were asking about the music in the beginning of day 1 and day 2. That was the Funky Father, Mike Mattingly. So definitely has some great music. Okay, Logan, my man, go ahead.
All right. So thank you everyone who put this thing together. It was a huge success, and just you continue to outdo yourself each year. Very excited to see what's the future holds. It's an honor to be amongst all of you amazing warriors, and obviously thank you to all the audience who tuned in and supported us and showed up to learn. So my platform is the Wizard Factory. You could just check out thewizardfactory.com. In light of this conference, I decided to do a little sprucing up on there. I added a couple of pages on a content section. So now I've got some featured content on there that makes it easier for newcomers to come and kind of get a feel for things. And yeah, that'll pretty much get you where you want to go. So come check out what I got, and I think you'll like it. So thank you.
And also, if I may, your extended presentation dropped today. Go ahead.
That's right.
Finish it up.
That's right. So the extended 4-hour version of the FUNL 1-hour version that aired yesterday of my mind control presentation dropped on the channel as well. And so that's going to be the first thing on the channel when you check that out. So highly recommend. It's the same idea, but way more detail. All the techniques are laid out. It's like the granularity of it is really what where the value is for that. So I hope you check it out and maybe share it with someone.
Looking forward to that.
Excellent.
Word. Thanks, Will, for
awesome, that. Logan. Yep. Very high detail. Great.
Thanks, Logan.
All right, Brandon.
All right. Well, I think all you guys know who I am at least. Yeah, it's been such an honor to be here with you guys, to see everybody just develop into this amazing fruit of knowledge. Everything that's been going on is just so top caliber, and everybody here has done such a great job, and I cannot thank you guys from the bottom of my soul anymore. To see you guys develop into this, from Corey's great philosophical presentation to everybody, Nate's circle dot presentation. Yeah. Everybody's just done an immaculate job, or what I like to call eptacular, so epic and spectacular put together. So yeah, for anybody who doesn't know my work, I am the host of the Seed Conference, which I've been putting on since 2017, I believe. And I'm also the co-host of the Cubbyhole podcast with Nate. You can find my work at seedtruth.com, and I will be releasing a new book here very soon. It will be called Rebels Against the State, and it's going to be an in-depth understanding of the anarchistic ideology through history, which I've been working on for quite a long time now. So it's going to be very, very detailed, very comprehensive for anybody who's interested in understanding the full history of the philosophy of anarchism, going all the way back to ancient Egyptian, philosophy as well. So yeah, he pulled up the slide there. The next Seed conference is coming September 25th and 26th. It's Seed 5 Metamorphosis, where we have a bunch of people like James Cordner. We have Corey speaking. We have Nate. We got Will. We got Logan. We got Leslie. We got all kinds of top caliber speakers coming. So it's going to be amazing. So I hope that you guys will join us there and participate in the chat. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing your guys' work at that conference as well.
And that artwork on the poster's Nate's, right?
Yes,
Nate,
it
yeah.
is. Nate always does amazing artwork.
Thank you. I actually just updated that photo, made it a lot better. It's a little dark in that photo, but yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
I love the DNA strand into the. It looks like a needle. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's a
Some
deep
great
one.
symbolism in your artwork, Nate. Very,
Thank you.
very good.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Nate.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Chris, Leslie, and Sabrina, you guys want to say anything before we close it out? And to let the viewers know, we're going to end with the FUNL 3 anthem by Diesel Automatic. So stay tuned and then dance your way out of this epic event.
I'll just share my website is alivethrive.life. And also we have a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel and an Odyssey channel. And then I'm part of the Dissolving the Divide. And that's on YouTube and Odyssey as well. So you can catch my work on those places and at the One Great Work Network. So
yeah, you can find my silly face on One Great Work Network too, and evil.life. And then if you go to chrisjansen.com, that's a place where you can join my little email group. And so we have our stuff we put out with the One Great Work Warriors too, which I'm pretty excited about. But I've said enough tonight, and I'm glad to see this come to its wonderful conclusion, its natural conclusion.
yeah, in awe that I'm even a part of this.
Much
it's
love.
kind of like
So glad to have you
a
all.
shock to me. Yeah,
It's great.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be a part of this. This is my first conference, and you guys I work with children. I'm an early childhood special education teacher working with kids 0 through 5, and you guys have modeled for me all these presentations, and I am just so inspired. I'm like, have all these ideas for presentations now, and I just kind of like needed that modeling and kind of just experiencing this to be like, oh yeah, I've got like all these different ideas that I could do. And so thank you for that. You guys have showed me the way. But you can find me at Facebook, it's Sabrina Weil, or LinkedIn, and see some of my work there. And I offer parent coaching and circle time sessions on Saturdays for 3 to 5 year olds with special needs. So if there's a parent out there that needs help in that area, I would be happy to help.
Can you say that again, Sabrina, your contact that you're offering?
My contact, I'm on Facebook right now, so you could look at me, just type in Sabrina Weil, or again at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is also Sabrina Weil, and you'll see my face and can reach out to me there.
How do you spell your last name, Sabrina?
Wile, Weil.
Nice.
She's on there's a presenter page too. Organizer page too, where you can see her name.
I'll say everyone subscribe to this YouTube channel as well, and stay tuned, because all of the individual replays of the different individual presentations will be being uploaded sequentially afterwards, so you can check those out and review those, and a lot more shareable individual ones than just sharing the whole full day versions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to say
Beautiful. Go for
it. You guys, the whole team of FUNL, you guys are so impressive, and I'm just blown away by how well this all went, and I just how slick it is, and all the graphics, and just the way the whole layout was. It was so cool, and it was just very, very compact in such a great way, and I really feel like you guys really all of us really created just a big burst of great energy this whole weekend, and it's just been so cool to be part of, and I really appreciate all you guys.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to you guys as well. I feel very at home with this community, especially when I go to other communities out there. I'm like, it's nice to know, like, because I never expected to run into you guys. I mean, to be honest, I never expected to get involved with Mark Passio's network or to find like-minded individuals. You know, I was doing my own thing on my own course, and I just like, I ran into you guys, and like, you guys are beautiful individuals who express yourselves, who hit the root cause, and it's like, there's literally no better place I can be on the internet. Like, I'm not even kidding. And it's nice to meet you, Sabrina and Angela as well, since I haven't met you both. You guys seem like you're doing fantastic stuff, so we'll definitely connect, I'm sure.
Hopefully we can build towards doing this live one day.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Live.
We really like that.
Come to Florida. I'll set it up. Let's go.
He doesn't have enough work to do. We could
Next week.
In between books, yeah.
All right, this is amazing, guys.
Excellent comments. Thank you all. I want to thank all the presenters, all the viewers, and it's been really nice. This is the third conference. It's been nice growing with everyone in this process. So, Funnel 4, be on the lookout for it. And our goal is to each conference to increase the content. Was that my dog? No.
That was a husky.
You should know my dog.
Oh, Brandon's. Yeah.
Yeah, they're ready. They've been roughhousing behind.
They're trying to say they're trying to say they like it too. Yeah.
I was on 5. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
That was so funny.
Got to see it to achieve it. I love it. So yeah, thank you all. We're gonna end it with Diesel Automatic again to all the viewers. Thank you so much. Big shout out to Mark Passio. We're on the One Great Work Network live for both days. It's been fantastic. It's been real. Appreciate you all.
Thanks much.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, whole team.
Yeah, thank all of you.
Excellent. Funnel 3, the Trivium Freedom Under Natural Law Conference. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
If you are intelligent, then you know that freedom is inherent because it's evident. It doesn't come from government. It don't come from the president. It comes from the creator of all universal elements. Some people say it's God-given. Others say it's heaven-sent. No matter what you call it, natural law sets the precedent. Subjective morality's a fallacy. There's laws that we cannot see, like gravity, that people accept happily, but tragically they believe that freedom has to be granted to them magically by royalty or majesty. It's sad to see people willingly give up their liberty because they don't really see the enemy that's on a killing spree. The state, it hates sovereign individuals because those who follow natural law and abide by all its principles are mentally invincible, immune to the brainwash. We liberate ourselves and then help others break the chains off. We ain't soft, we go hard like when the thunder hits. Guns and clips ready in self-defense from the government and the elitists running it. Blast them all, claim our freedom standing under it. Natural law, the elitists running it. Blast them all, claim our freedom standing under it. Natural law, freedom under natural law. For us all, yeah, freedom under natural law. For us all, yeah, freedom under natural law. For us all, what? For us all, what? Freedom for us all, what? You know what we do. Get big.